I've never really been in a position before in my life where I had to force myself to keep playing a video game. Like it was very weird. It was a hard kind of like mental thing. My room was pretty much the only thing that I ever really saw. I mean, I had to grind Fortnite for like 16 hours a day to kind of keep up playing scrims all the
God.
time, streaming, everything like that. I have blackout curtains that still exist in my room. They do great. But yeah, pretty much like no sunlight, 16 hours, boom, you sleep for 8, you wake back up, Fortnite again. Literally on repeat. Didn't really go outside all that much. Like the main thing was I wasn't enjoying it.
Well, I can't believe this is finally happening. Not only Hop on Comms is finally a thing, but also I'm joined by a guy that still gives me tingles every time that we hang out together. Because I'm in the presence of a Fortnite god. Everybody, it's Noah Wright, aka Vivid. Thank you for hopping on comms, my friend. I love seeing you. This is awesome.
Yeah, listen, we share like the same sentiment for each other. Me and Adam. Not a lot of people know, but we're pretty much just best friends. Always catching up with one another. Always making sure everything is going good on the other side of the world. Geez, we're always so far apart, but when we're together, we are such a power team. And yeah, Adam. First of all, thank you for inviting me on. I'm excited to just chat.
Of course, of course, of course. And you know what? For you guys who are listening here and you're here for this show, um, we kind of I want to kind of bring you guys as much of an insider, kind of behind the curtain as possible of like what happens in the wider world of gaming. I think, as I'm sure you agree, Vivid, like the gaming world has grown like
Yeah.
mad. Oh, like I mean, you've made a career. Right? We both made careers out of games in different ways. And we'll get onto it, obviously. But I want to kind of like bring people to the forefront who could. I'm sure a lot of like parents or people kind of want to get into like content creation. They hear about what it's like to be a pro player or be with an org or an organization playing on a team or competing or what that means. Is it a thing? So it's kind of giving everyone a bit of like a kind of a real idea of what that life is like.
Yeah. No.
And
No. 100%.
yeah, and for you, and that's why I love the fact that you're on this show, and as we'll get onto the fact of how we met as well, and how we kind of grew in that kind of like Fortnite competitive space too, because it's just a crazy thing. But I want to start focusing first and foremost on you basically, and like what how you got to where you are now, and the kind of the kind of the origin story, if you will. It's like kind of like the origins of Vivid, where it all began. I guess the first kind of like question has to be growing up,
Yeah.
gaming, your relationship, where it started. What was the kind of the beginning for you?
For majority of my life, Adam, I was actually on a console, all throughout high school. High school,
My
I actually
guy,
stopped playing.
speaking to my heart here,
Yeah,
Vivid.
I know you.
Consoles for life, by the way.
When it came down to coming to high school is when I stopped playing sports. I signed up for soccer. Uh, Basically, how that worked was soccer tryouts actually started before high school, like the starting date of high school. So I was coming in as a freshman. I think the tryouts were like a month and a half before school even started. So it was early. It was still in the summer, very, very hot. And I just didn't wake up in time, completely forgot. So I didn't make it to soccer tryouts. I tried out for basketball. Now, if anybody knows me, has anybody seen me IRL, seen some pictures, I'm short. So I was definitely not good. Everybody else was way better. But I was out there giving it my all. And I think there was like 3 or 4 cuts that happened. I made it to the last cut, actually, where only like 3 people got cut. And I was one of those 3, unfortunately. Or I should say, fortunately, because, the fact that I was no longer invested in sports throughout high school definitely made it so, boom, video games just became a little bit more of a priority. Or I
Hmm.
wouldn't say a priority, but that was just a hobby that filled my time at that point. And yeah, after high school, did a couple of years of college, and then boom, Fortnite.
Boom. And so, I mean, and what kind of games were you playing during those kind of younger years? Was it you were kind of like always playing like the competitive kind of multiplayer kind of style games? Were you kind of like, I know there's like a big battle royale kind of scene of like the PUBGs were coming through, the Daisies.
Mhm.
Were you kind of on that bandwagon before Fortnite or something else?
I would say probably the biggest impactful game in terms of like pushing myself as a gamer was probably Gears of War.
Oh,
Have you ever played Gears of War, Adam?
I remember I got my Xbox 360
Yeah.
and there were two games I got, two games when it first came out. The first one was arguably one of my favorite games, if not my favorite of all time, Mass Effect. Mass
Oh,
Effect was just
okay.
like the one. A buddy of mine worked at like a Blockbuster, God rest Blockbuster, Blockbuster Video, kind of the video store, and he was like, "Look, you got to get Mass Effect. This kind of space RPG. It's sick." I was like, "Okay, I'm in, I'm in." And he goes, "And you've also got to get like because Gears of War as well was like the Xbox." It was like the game, like
Yeah.
it was like the kind of like the Xbox IP that was like the number one must have in anyone's collection because it's it's classic. It's like third person cover shooter, but you're kind of like chainsawing demons' faces off. And I was like, dude, I'm so in. I am so in. Yes. And it was gory. It was bloody. I mean, and it was great. And the graphics were good enough then as well that it kind of felt like it really felt a lot more kind of immersive. And as console gamers, yeah,
Yeah.
mate, dude, Gears of War was great. And but the multiplayer. Now, were you kind of single player in this, or were you kind of multiplayer in this?
Not almost strictly multiplayer, seriously. And
Really, dude, I
yeah,
did
yeah,
not know
yeah,
that.
yeah. And like I mentioned, I credit a lot of how good I am at video games today because of Gears. Where I spent so many hours on Gears, like, but Gears was like such a competitive game for just like queuing up into like a regular match. Like it felt like everybody wanted to win. And so that alone was good. Like for example, if you play Call of Duty, and back then I don't really know if like skill-based matchmaking was kind of like a thing, but let's be honest, if you jumped into a Call of Duty game, you weren't really sure who you're gonna kind of go up against. You know what I mean? You might
Hmm.
get somebody who's a little bit newer. Just so many people played Call of Duty that it felt like there was just, you know what I mean, the people that you actually got into it, it really, really mattered. But Gears of War, I don't know, it just felt like every match that I jumped into, it felt competitive. Like it felt like the other team was at a certain level to where it wasn't just like, oh, I can just completely stomp these guys if without trying. Now, granted, trust me, Adam, I completely stomped them regardless. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't doubt it, mate. I don't doubt it.
But yeah, Gears was good because think about Gears, and if anybody kind of doesn't know about Gears, Adam was kind of speaking about it a little bit right there. It's this third person game. You have typically the loadout was you had a rifle and then you had a shotgun. Now shotgunning was the skill part of the game. And now a lot of people argue like if you were watch competitive Gears, it's actually rifling because you want to hide behind cover and kind of maintain this position, this position. So that's kind of like competitive Gears. But for like just running the pub matches, it was like the shotgun. That's how you prove to other people that you were kind of good. And the reason why the shotgun was so good is because there's this thing in Gears of War called wall bouncing. That you could kind of make your character move to a wall and then cancel that animation and then go to another wall. And the faster you
Oh
could kind of
yeah.
do that, yeah, the faster you kind of do that was like how good you were at Gears. So the cool thing about Gears is that it has that the gun aspect, right? Which almost all kind of like competitive games that I usually play have. So I was learning how to use like a shotgun close range rifle from long range. There was kind of like utility and weapon spawns on the map that you kind of wanted to control and learning timing. So Gears is just teaching you all that, and then on top of it, had that mechanical side where it was like, okay, then you also need to kind of grind out the wall bouncing mechanic and all of that. So Gears was like the perfect game to learn almost everything in terms of like being able to transition those similar ideas to different games. Because if you think about like Fortnite, where I actually made a competitive career, positioning, awesome. You need to maintain kind of like these certain objectives, whether it be like up on a hill or something like that. Gears had the same thing. Weapon spawns, kind of like the same thing. Sometimes they were up high, sometimes they were down low. Obviously, the gun aspect, the shotgun aspect, Fortnite had that. How I can kind of get closer to people, and then the mechanics, right? Yeah, wall bouncing and building in Fortnite completely two different things, but having a mechanical skill set and combining that with everything else is kind of what Gears kind of taught me. So I credit a lot of it to Gears, seriously, because Gears was ahead of its time, and I wish I could like jump back into those games and just start like getting into it again. But we all know games fall out of favor for us personally, and then for the wider scene of gaming as well. But yeah, Gears was an awesome game.
Yeah, it was great, and there is still obviously there is still a competitive scene out there. There is still it is still a
Yeah,
thing, but it's just nowhere near. I guess yeah, it's just nowhere near as prominent or prevalent as the likes of Fortnite now, which is kind of in
yeah,
every single home. Plus, the fact that Fortnite's kind of still seen as kind of like family esque, whereas Gears was a
yeah.
little. It was a little bit kind of like
Chainsaws.
I mean, and the close up kind of the POVs of just like hacking faces was
Yeah,
pretty intense. But I mean, I didn't know. I mean, that makes a lot of sense as well because there aren't many games as well now. You mentioned like Call of Duty and stuff, which is kind of FPS focused. You got kind of first person perspective. I guess with Fortnite as well, you have the fact that you are a third person and you're already kind of getting used to that kind of like visually as well. Like,
yeah,
the user interface, like, what you're kind of looking at, how you kind of like how to manage your HUD as well. But when it comes to Fortnite, that transition you made from like when Fortnite comes out? Because I remember where I was. I remember when Fortnite came out, and I remember it was this game where it just kind of came out of nowhere. It just kind of dropped on my,
Yeah.
I'm a PlayStation gamer, comes out, and it's like, oh, it's this new free game to play. It's in beta. Probably still is. I have no idea. Is it still in beta? I don't even know.
I think it
Uh,
is technically.
it's still beta. All these years later, all these billions of dollars made later. It was kind of like in this beta, and I remember the focal point was save the world mode, right? So everything was about,
Yeah.
oh, it's this PVE kind of like, kind of survival, kind of round based, kind of like Call of Duty Zombies, kind of like, keep going until you possibly can't stop. But then there was that other kind of side to it, which was kind of the building side. So what was it for you, that kind of entry point into Fortnite? Like, how did you find this? Who were you playing with? What was the kind of story behind you kind of going, this is kind of a little bit of me?
So I'm happy that one little question that you threw in there was, who were you playing with? Because I haven't kind of tapped into like who I was playing with for a very long portion of my like, gaming career. Really, I mean, it had to be like when I don't know exactly when, but I met this guy on Gears of War. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was Gears of War, and his name was his real name is Ryan. His in-game name Precise. And Precise, I played everything with. I mean, whether it would have been Minecraft, Gears of War, Call of Duty, Borderlands, whatever we were playing, we were usually playing together. You know what I mean? We had like a routine, hop on, game all night, and then fall asleep for like 5 hours and be absolutely zombified in the morning going to school, right? Everybody knows those stories. But Precise was that guy for me. You know what I mean? The guy that I just duoed everything with. And when Fortnite came out, still on Xbox at this point, and he was like, yo, let's try it. So hopped on, tried it, played for about, maybe like 5 months because, to give everybody a timeline here that I'll be talking about, I think Fortnite came out in September, and I was professionally earning money in Fortnite that following year in like July, August, June, like somewhere around there. So it was like was that like 8, 9 months since Fortnite came out, and I was
Mm.
actually professionally like earning money in the game. So keep that timeline in mind right there. But yeah, me and Precise were just gaming on Xbox, and eventually at this point in my life, I was working a job during the summer, following Fortnite's release and everything like that, and I was like, dude. Precise. Let's get PCs. You know what I mean? PC was kind of emerging as like this
What was the
thing.
job? What was the job?
I was a laborer in a machine shop. So,
Okay.
basically what a
I thought
labor
it'd be a bit more exciting than that, but I'll take labor in a machine shop. I'll take it. I'll
dude,
take
let
it.
me tell you something. I was the guy. Like, if you needed something done, where's Noah at? You know what I mean?
I
Like, I
love
wanna
wherever you go, everyone's like, look, Noah's just the guy. Okay, we got to get this guy.
so real quick, like the kind of the story is there. I kind of had access to a lot because my dad was actually the boss of the machine shop. So I kind of had that like that son boss kind of S going on where a lot of people respected me. But I did things for everybody. If anybody ever needed something, I kind of had a I wasn't necessarily doing something so important. I was kind of like this free guy. If anybody needed anything done, I could be there. Sometimes I was messing with the machines, running the machines. Sometimes I was helping take parts apart or anything like that. Sometimes during the summer when it got so hot and people needed fans, I was sitting on this like 10-foot ladder bolting up giant fans that are probably weighed half as much as I did, bolting them up there. But a big deal of it was, there was like a place where you would go in this shop to actually get like parts or bolts or tools that anybody needed. And if anybody ever needed anything from that shop, where's Noah at? Hey Noah, I need this bolt. Can you get me something? Just stuff like that. I was pretty much a do it all guy. But it was awesome. But yeah, I was earning money. I did a lot of overtime with my dad, a lot of early mornings. But
Your family was supporting your kind of gaming away from work. They were like, he's working hard.
yeah,
But
yeah,
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 let's if you earn the money, you do the hours, like game
yeah.
till 5 in the morning you were precise.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my dad's always been very, very supportive, whether it be like I said, going over friends' houses, doing whatever. He's a very trusting individual of me, so I could, do whatever I wanted. And by the way, at this point in my life, no intent whatsoever of making a dime off of video games. I was just playing video games for the love of it. It was my hobby, everything like that. But yeah, because of that job, I was able to afford a PC, and I think it was around like maybe like March, April, May, something like that. I couldn't really tell you the timeline there. I could look back at like receipts and probably find out, but off the top of my head, I don't know. But the way that I actually bought this PC was, I think it was like $1,800, $2,000 or something like that, and I financed it and I paid it off in like 3 months. I couldn't afford to pay for it in cash. I was, working this like
Mhm.
semi part time job, going to college and kind of just going in when I could. But yeah, I paid it off in like 3 months, and that's how I actually ended up affording. affording a PC. So I got a PC, and then, like I mentioned, that timeline wise, I think July around that time is when I made my first earnings in Fortnite. So after switching to PC, it was a couple months, 4 or 5 months before I actually made my first dollar on
So,
Fortnite.
so we and I want to get onto the money side of things too, because I think people are so curious about that, about like how what that even means. Because I think a lot of it stuff you see in the press these days is like, oh, this is a professional player, or this person's a YouTuber. They're making millions, man. They're making hundreds of $1,000s a day, a week, a month, and you're like, okay, let's just settle down a little bit and be a bit more realistic. But when it comes down to the PC side of things, because a lot, again, talking about the kind of PC versus console, that kind of this kind of constant battle that we see all the time, and even now, and the thing about Fortnite is interesting too. They have like console specific cups, so you can
Yeah.
only play, if you're playing on a console, some certain cups, and you can earn cash prizes in that kind of way. But with the PC side, so did you transition from console to PC because you knew that was where the real competition was, or because was it about frame rate and ping and those kind of things that you knew were going to get you, make it even a better experience for you as a competitor?
I think mainly I hopped on PC. Again, did not think about the money at all. Like I was not I wasn't buying a PC to be like, "Oh, let me make a career." I was buying a PC cuz I wanted access to more games. Like literally, like, Steam was like around, and you just have infinitely more access when you jump on a PC than you do on a console. Like there's just more games out that you can kind of play on PC. And again, remember, I had that friend Precise, and we both bought PCs at the same time because we were gaming on consoles, and I was like, dude, like let's both buy PCs and kind of like hop on. So boom, we both buy PCs, and then we kind of like hop on Fortnite because Fortnite was the game that we were playing on console or on Xbox pretty exclusively as well. So we just jumped on to the PC, and then boom, it was just like we were still playing like similar games and everything like that. But yeah, like you mentioned, better frame rate, just a little bit of a better experience, more options and everything like that. And so we just jumped on Fortnite, and I credit a lot of my success actually to Precise because it was then when we hopped on Fortnite, and we were playing and everything like that. And I remember him saying one day, he was like, "Dude, you're good. Like you're like really good. Like you should stream." And so yeah, I took his advice and I started to stream. And a lot of people don't actually know this, but me and Precise I would be streaming pretty exclusively like almost every night, every single time we jumped on Fortnite to like him, like, you know what I mean? Like, he was, like, my only viewer, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, I wasn't like I was streaming to, like,
Yeah.
a lot of people or anything like that, but, yeah, I was just streaming my gameplay, because he said I was good. Like, I had no intent, like, again, I myself had no intent of ever making any money, like, looking at people that were making careers out of video games, that was like the dream job. That was like there's no way that's ever happening, but if I could ever make that happen, that would be so cool. Like, I was a smart individual in school. I got straight A's. I wanted to be a doctor when I grew up. Specifically, I wanted to be a radiologist, because I was always,
Specific.
yeah, very, very
He
specific,
loves an
literally.
X-ray. He loves an X-ray.
Literally, that's what I wanted to be. That's what I was going to school for. But yeah, Precise convinced me to start streaming, and the funny thing is that again, no intent of competing, no intent of making any money. But then Precise somehow met this other like browsing Fortnite streams. I'm pretty sure he was found this guy that was looking for a scrim team, and Precise was like, "Yo, me and my boy, talking about me. So like me and him would jump onto this person's scrim team." The guy was like, "Oh, like cool, we can kind of do like a tryout." And one thing led to another. I don't know the specific story, but then eventually this other team became interested in me, and they were like, "Oh, cool, let's do a tryout." Adam, if you had to guess, right, what this tryout for this scrim team? By the way, these were like open scrims, like a team that didn't
Can we?
nobody really
I,
knew
I want.
them.
I want to ask you something, because I
Okay.
know there's going to be people out there who are like, "What the heck is a scrim?"
Oh.
So let's just break. Like just very quickly, scrims. Explain.
Okay, so in competitive games, all like ca- across all titles, a scrim is pretty much like a scrimmage. It's kind of like the shorthand that everybody kind of calls scrim. Scrims are you intentionally queue up in some way, shape, or form against other players who are of similar skill level with the intent of getting better. Like that was the best practice that you could possibly get.
So it prepares you for every competition ultimately, because you're playing against the best of the best, and
Yeah,
which is way better than you playing against kind of
yeah,
nobodies who or beginners who don't have anywhere near the same skill set basically.
exactly. So this scrim team, not necessarily already scrimming, but a scrim team looking to put together a team
Mhm.
with the intent of kind of getting better together. Mind you, it was a 4-player team, so there were still squad scrims going on back then,
Oh,
and
squads.
yeah,
Good
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Good times.
Now this team got interested in me. Now, so they were like, "Okay, yeah, we'll try out." And the only reason I got a tryout, by the way, is because of how good my stats were on Fortnite. Like, and it's funny because people like laugh at like your Fortnite stats nowadays because it doesn't really mean anything. But like my stats from my public games, so like me just queuing into a game, how good my stats were actually got me a trial with this team. Right? They kind of looked at my stats and they were like, "Okay, he's good enough. Let's get him a trial." Now, Adam, if you had to guess, okay, again,
Okay.
remember,
Okay.
maybe I'm competing for this. I think it was like the last spot on the team. They had three already, so I was like, I was fighting for the last spot on the scrim team, and maybe there's like four of us competing for it. What do you think these three guys did in order to trial each one of us? Like, what do you think my trial looked like?
Like, I mean, my mind goes to certain amount of eliminations in a game, certain amount of VRs, like victory royales. I don't know. What was it? Was it more basic than that?
They invited me to a party. Those three guys that were looking for a fourth
Yeah.
invited me to, and I didn't know what I was like. I didn't know what I was signing up for. I didn't know what I was joining into.
Oh
They
God.
like asked me like no questions or anything like that. We jumped into a public squad game. We played one game out, and that was it. Like the game ended. I think we won it. I don't know. Maybe I had like 10 Elan. Like I can't remember. And they were like, "Yeah, we'll let you know if you made the team." And then that was it. Like boom, gone. Like I was just out of the party.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
And were these
Uh,
were these were these players that we know like nowadays? Are they kind of players that went on to do anything or not? Just
nope.
nope. Okay.
I don't think any of them ended up actually making it like into any of the competitions, like any finals, like to the level that I did or to the level of most people did.
Because I know you now. We've known each other for like a few years now. Since and we'll get on to the kind of the story of how how our paths crossed, how the
The
two natural
juicy part.
disasters like we combined together like a tag team, like a WrestleMania tag team. That's you and I. Uh, were you because you're a confident, outspoken. You've got a great personality, charisma, charm. Back then, were you a lot different as a person as a because you this is before you've had a career in front of camera, before you've done done presentations and you've done like the likes of FNCS. Are you a lot more kind of a quiet kind of individual? Is it
Oh
you a
yeah.
person that were you growing up? Were you kind of like kind of an out like a big character? Were you kind of introvert? Like what were you like?
No, I was a person that was uncomfortable being uncomfortable. Like I liked being comfortable and meeting new people. Whilst I was like fine with it, it wasn't like my favorite thing in the world to do. I was definitely a quiet child for sure. Like even though I was outgoing, playing sports and everything like that, like still very very quiet. So to kind of be like joining this team and just kind of like showing up and playing a normal squad game with them, and then like just never hearing from them for like, I don't know, maybe like a week or something like that, or maybe a couple days, however long it was like, okay, what's going on? You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely pretty shy.
And so you have this trial that happens. You're like, all right, fair, whatever. How do you get onto the you talked about how you started earning money from games, and I wish
Mhm.
which with anybody, if you play a video game even now, regardless of wherever you are, whether you do kind of what we do when you kind of work in the kind of like the esports kind of gaming game game world of kind of like production and presentation. Okay, if you work in games in any capacity, people are like, dude, that's the sickest job in the world. You
Yeah.
work in games, man. Like you work in games. You've won life. You've done it. If you're playing at that kind of age and you're kind of competing and you're earning money to play games, is there kind of this? Because I know what it's like when you kind of stream as well, and you kind of see your kind of your viewership tick up, and you start to see your subscribers come through, and there's donations. That there's this kind of like this is kind of real kind of like uh it puts wins in your sails, right? You kind of feel like, oh,
Yeah.
we're doing something. We're making moves here. This is a thing. Did you know? Did you love the feeling? And what was that feeling like of kind of earning that money? What was that first? What was that first earning? Was it through streaming? Was it through competition? Like, what was the first kind of like gaming paycheck that you got?
So I'll back up just a little bit in terms of like jump into my first like actual money making, and I'll kind of explain what happened with the scrim team first. 'Cause I feel like that's like an important part of it as well.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Um, but ultimately, I ended up making the scrim team. I still remember their names. It was Charlie, Vakopi, and Parm were my three teammates' names. I still remember them to this day. Now, remember, Fortnite at this time, everybody was doing squad scrims, and the reason everybody was doing squad scrims There was no real reason. Like, mind you, there was no competitions being held at this point. There was no like announcement that there were going to be competitions. It was kind of just like you did it because you thought there might be in the future, right? We saw other games kind of popping off with competition. It was like, oh, we want to get ahead of the game. So we were kind of just doing it for fun, trying to get better at the game. But ultimately, what ended up happening was Fortnite announced this kind of event called I don't know the order at which they made the announcements in, but I remember there was this thing that came out called Summer Showdown Blitz or something like that, and it was a solo event. Now, mind you, like I just mentioned, we were running squad scrims, and we were just running squad scrims because that's what we thought the game mode was going to be. But the first one was actually a solo event, and this solo event was just you queue up. There was no money on the line or anything like that. You just got points. I think you got to play like 10 games. How many points you could get over the course of the 10 games, and on the overall leaderboard throughout like the NA East region, I think I ended up like 12th in most points. Mind you, I'm nobody at this point. Nobody knows my name. I just hopped into this like little thing and boom, I got 12th. Now, because I got 12th, that actually netted me. What Epic Games did was they looked at that scoreboard and they invited people based off of it. So I remember literally getting an email from Lumen. If anybody follows Fortnite competitive, Lumen
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very, very tied into the early competitive days of Fortnite. Literally from Lumen, he was like, "Hey, because you did well in the solo event, why don't you come play in the summer skirmish, solo first week, whatever like that," which of course was a solo event. And that was the first time that Epic themselves had held a competition sanctioned like by themselves. Like that was their first competition. Now there were other tournaments kind of going on, and I can kind of speak about those. I went to some of them after this first event, but yeah, the first Epic held event. So that was like huge, right? Because it was like, okay, finally we have like an announcement. We know there's like a dream here for Epic to kind of hold competitive events. And if anybody remembers, if anybody follows Fortnite competitive, Summer Skirmish Week, one, remember, I'm nobody. There are teams out there that a lot of people watch, have thousands of viewers. Like, for example, Chap and Tom were one of them, like Tifu and Cloaksy. Like, there were big names out there that a lot of people were watching stream wise that were like, they're going to win this event. They got invited to this event. They're going to win the event. Boom, here's this nobody. My name was not Vivid and my duo. And we won. We won the event.
Dude.
We won the first week. Like it was crazy.
And that kind of was like an overnight kind of success in some degrees because
Literally.
suddenly your name is like. Let's not forget as well. Fortnite is on the tip of everyone's tongue at this point. This is like a game that is has gone totally stratospheric around the world. It's popular now, but back then when it first came out, it was like a brand new game. And this is I want everyone to kind of like to hopefully try and put two and two together in the sense that esports as well is growing at the same time from the production standpoint, from the kind of like the scale of things, kind of like how big things get. And at the same time, when that's happening, like when you pop off like you guys did, and suddenly your name you kind of your name's in like flashing Hollywood lights.
Yeah.
Everyone suddenly puts you on the same kind of like pedestal as the Tifus, and they're talking about you guys, and they're like, "Oh, we got to watch out for this not vivid guy. He's a big deal."
Yeah. And it was kind of crazy because, the way that the format worked back then was if you gosh, what was it? It was like something to do with wins. Like I think if you won 2 games, like we were supposed to play 6 games or something like that. But if you like won 2 games, or if somebody won 2 games, then they won the tournament, right? So Chap and Tom had won. I think it was the first game. Like I could be mistaken here, but Chap and Tom definitely won 1 game. Now, remind you,
And
coming into this,
Tom 72 hours, right?
correct? Yeah, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
what they named Chap in 72 Hours back then, and they were the most popular like competitive duo. Like everybody kind of expected them to win. Everybody within like the scrim scene was like, those are the guys that are going to win. And they came out and first game they showed it that they were going to win. First game they win. Second game. Now, remind you, if you win 2 games throughout, I think we were planning on playing 6 games. If you win 2 of the games, you win the tournament. The tournament's over. Boom, done. Second game, my duo and we were alive in this end game, and it was versus like Chap and 72 Hours were both also still alive. So it was like, now of course we didn't know this, like we didn't know that they were alive because you don't really know who's alive in a
Mhm.
battle royale. But yeah, they were alive and they were shooing to actually to win the game. And crazy story is it actually came down to a 1v1 between my duo, and it was oh gosh, was it Chap or Tom? I think it was Chap. I'm pretty sure it was Chap. And crazy story is Chap, or if it was Tom in this scenario, I can't remember, but they actually ended up using a grenade launcher and they hit themselves with it. And it ultimately ended up making them lose. So my duo actually solo clutched the win. We won the second game just over top of Chap and Tom, literally like one placement away from ending the tournament in 2 games. It was crazy. And yeah, so we kind of like saved the tournament whilst also being like, hey, who are these guys that are winning over the best duo that we thought was like the best duo in the world?
So that happens, and from that point, are you suddenly like, okay, we've been catapulted into like we're being talked about like the rest of like the myths and you know all the kind of like the top pros. Your name's in the conversation now.
You have to remember that we are playing a battle royale, and a lot of that, I mean, obviously battle royales are very, very hard, but it's very, very easy in a battle royale when you're watching, when you're playing to kind of chalk it up to just like, that was luck. Like those guys, like, you know what I mean? Whatever, who are they? So whilst it definitely put my name on the map and it definitely got shown because we won, I wouldn't say that, like, nobody really, like, cared, but it probably wasn't as big of, like, a blow up as you may seem. Like, that first win wasn't necessarily, like, the biggest thing, that was, like, the biggest contributing factor. Of course, like, mind you, I'm streaming, a lot, still streaming because of my friend Precise, so definitely gained viewers off of that as well. Gained a little bit of fame, like, some messages from pro players started coming in at this point, but nothing really too crazy. But the cool thing about Summer Skirmish was that it was actually an 8-week-long event. And we had just won the first week. Now, I believe it was either like the second or the third week, like one of those weeks I didn't get invited to. So again, my name kind of, disappeared. Who is not? He won the first week. Who cares? But I think it was weeks 3 and 4 or weeks 4 and 5. It was a solo event and then followed up by a duo event. So maybe like week 4 was solo and then week 5 was solo. I won the solo one, so I won solo, and then I ended up teaming up with Poach. Now, this winning that solo event was what got my name kind of pushed out there because I was like, okay, this guy just won, came out of nowhere, and won the duos event, and then you're telling me that he also won the solo event, and nobody's talking about this guy. Like I remember, like the Nick Merckx, I think clip out there of me, and for anybody out there that doesn't know, Nick Merckx was a big Fortnite creator back then, and he was actually casting one of the events, this one specifically. So he was a well-respected, well-known individual, very, very popular. And on the cast, he goes, no disrespect to not Vivid, but I don't really know who that is. But clearly he is here to kind of like show us. And so that was still the sentiment around me. But winning that solo week got me messages from this guy named Poach. Now, for anybody that doesn't know anything about Poach, Poach back then was regarded as one of the best players. And Poach kind of messaged me, he was like, "Hey, you want a duo next weekend? You know what I mean? Week 5, right after that solo event, because I won it." And he was like, "Hey, you want a duo?" Sure. Boom. We go on to win it. Now, at that point, I remember, I'm pretty sure it was after this week that my phone was impossible to look at. Like, I was getting messages from everybody, my friends IRL that I knew. I was getting emails from orgs like, hey, you want to have a meeting? You know what I mean? Like, boom, 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 boom. Like, it all just literally like boom. After winning multiple events out of Summer Skirmish, finally people realize that like, hey, listen, we're playing a battle royale. You're not supposed to be able to win consistently, and this guy is. Let's put some
Hmm.
respect on his name. Let's start to give him kind of like some of the stuff that he deserves. So yeah, streams started blowing up, phones started blowing up, orgs, teammates, some of the best people. I got invited to like the best scrims because remember there were levels to scrims back then, right? You either played like open scrims or there were kind of like exclusive scrims that kind of
Hmm.
people like locked down. It was like, hey, listen, I think these are the best 100 players, and this is who I want to play with. Yada yada yada. So there were kind of like some gatekeeping aspects to that, but I got invited to like those best scrims. Just the I started, like, running up the stairs rather than kind of, like, crawling up them for sure.
Just so I get some context here as well, the prize money, for instance, right? The winnings and stuff, because people kind of curious about it. Was it crazy? Was it crazy? I don't know how comfortable you are talking about it, but just for insight, was the prize money obviously was it kind of pretty substantial back then?
Yeah, it was huge. I can't remember it, but it was tens of thousands. I think for winning the first week, I think it was somewhere around, like, $50,000 each or, like, maybe it was, like, $40,000 each. I
Oh
know for
my
a fact that
god!
winning that 4th week, that solo event, it was, like, $67,500 or something like that. Like, Summer Skirmish was very, very
And
lucrative, especially for me since I was winning. That was, like, the biggest prize pool. I was winning,
yeah.
and it was just crazy money.
And you're let's say for instance you won $60,000, whatever it might be, you're being taxed on that presumably, right? Like that is that
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
so the way that, Epic Games actually did it, and shout out to Epic Games for this because this is actually an underrated thing that they were doing. Again, a lot of young or well, not for a while, but a lot of, like, younger people, a lot of people that don't really know much about taxes or adult things, like, in general, like, I think I was, like, around, like, 19, still pretty young in my eyes, but the way that they did it was, let's say that I won, $67,500. Now, the federal tax rate for that was 24%. So what they would do actually was they would automatically take that 24% out. So I actually never saw the full amount. They only sent me the amount after they themselves already like kind of like taxed it. So they actually did like that tax portion of it for me myself because if they were to send me the full 67,500 when the tax year ended and I had to submit my taxes, then I would actually have to pay that 24%. So thinking about their
Mhm.
players in that regard, they automatically taxed it. So the money that I did actually end up receiving was like all mine instead of being like, oh, I just got $70,000. Let me go blow all this. And then when I have to pay tax on it at the end of the
Yeah, yeah,
year,
yeah.
I
Smart,
can't. Yeah,
smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Did you change as a person? Because obviously you're 19 years old. If I'm 19, I'm suddenly getting $67,000 of my being prize money. I'm going to be that person that suddenly goes, let's go a bit crazy. Let's go a bit crazy. Let's have some fun here. But like,
Um,
did it change you? Were you so? Because I as again we talked about this before, but you seemed to me like you were so engaged what was happening competitively that was kind of like all you were focusing on there. I don't know if money came into it. You were thinking about those kind of things.
so money is like obviously like a weird thing to talk about, but like not weird to talk about, but sometimes it could be kind of like uncomfortable, right? Because it's like, oh, what do you do with your money? My money, the way I handle my money is better, yada yada yada, like that.
Hmm.
Dude, I didn't spend, like, any of it. Like, I remember like, obviously, I earned a lot that first year from competitively, like, streaming started popping off subs, a lot of viewers, ad revenue, everything like that. Like, a lot of money just kind of coming in from places that I don't even know existed. Like, I don't even know, like, just hitting my bank account. I'm like, "Okay, cool." But, dude, I can confidently like,
What?
seriously,
What? That is a dream. I'm just getting money. I don't know where it's coming from, but that's great.
I mean, it comes in and it's just like some like the title of it when it hits my bank account is like ACH 531000008, and I'm like, don't know. Cool, thanks. You know what I mean? um, but like I was very frugal. Like I'm a humble person. I don't like to
Mhm,
just like go out and start blowing all my money. I was never kind of like that. I'm a pretty safe person. I like to always have like savings built up and everything like that. So I can confidently say like even to like this time, like I bought my car. I bought my car
mhm.
cash, which was about $35,000. It was a brand new car, which a lot of people would advise against. Oh, why would you buy a brand new car? It just depreciates off a lot. I like new things personally. That's kind of like
Mhm.
how I am.
No,
I
I
don't I
get it.
don't
I
like
get
to
it.
I don't like to deal with used things, but that's pretty much all I did. I mean, like, I got signed to a team, and it's not like I had to like yeah, maybe like I bought a desk and I was buying like keyboards and mice to kind of try out and everything like that. Or I was getting free PCs, and I didn't even have to spend money on PCs because I was on Team Liquid at this point, sponsored by Alienware. Alienware sends me a PC for free. I don't even really have to spend money on that. Like it was just like Elgato sending me stuff, you know what I mean? Like I was such a
Dude.
popular guy that I almost like didn't have to spend any of the money that I was making to even upgrade my setup.
So you're yeah, because that really interests me as well, like the whole kind of org thing, because there are, you see it these days as well. Like, I remember I went to my first ever Call of Duty event when I went to kind of do some work a while, like a long time ago now for Activision, and I went to like the Call of Duty kind of like World Finals, and it was great, and you had like Optic Gaming and these kind of it's the first kind of my first kind of introduction to kind of like esports orgs, okay, and the fan base and the kind of the players that play for these teams are celebrated in circles the same as like you'd
Mhm.
have like your favorite like football players, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
So you get signed to Team Liquid. I know that obviously Chap and 72 Hours, Poach, they're all Team Liquid, like kind
Yep.
of like the kind of like brotherhood. What does it mean to get signed to an org? Like, what did that mean? Because obviously, Alienware and these different brands are kind of like presumably like sponsoring, saying, "Yeah, use our stuff. Here's some free bits and pieces."
Yeah.
When you're in an org, like, what are your deliverables? Like, because I know there's going to be kind of some kind of people watching thinking, "Oh, I want to play for FaZe Clan one day. I want to play for Cloud9." These different. What does it mean to be on an org, and what did you have to deliver and was there a salary? I mean, you obviously don't go into details if you need to, but just the understanding of what that means to be part of an org.
Playing professionally and streaming, I always said to myself that I would not do it as a career unless I had a guaranteed source of income, right? Think about it. My three main sources of income during this time was winning tournaments or playing in tournaments, not necessarily winning them, but placing well in them. Two, streaming and everything like that. Now, already those 2, if I don't win a tournament, if I don't place one in a tournament, I don't earn money. If my stream doesn't do well or anything like that, or I don't get any like subs, donations, anything like that, boom. Very, very reliant on things that aren't necessarily kind of in your control completely.
Mm.
Um, but well, I mean, sometimes you start losing tournaments and everything like that, and you're not earning money because of that. So then my third source of income at that point would have been a salary from Team Liquid. And I always said to myself that I would not continue to compete as a career or play competitively as a career if I did not have a guaranteed source of income. So that's what being on org did to me, because it was like, okay, if I do terribly in every tournament, if my stream does terribly, I am still guaranteed to get this amount of money. I sign a contract for 2 years. I can do this for 2 years, and that was kind of like my safety net. That's the reason why I really was able to continue to play competitively. And still, I earned enough money from streaming and playing competitively to where I didn't necessarily need the salary, but the salary was always there in the back of my mind. Like, okay, it's a little bit of pressure off of the shoulders. Like, I don't have to perform in every single event. You know what I mean? Like, I always wanted to make a wage and everything like that. So for Team Liquid, they were awesome. I will tell you that my signing of Team Liquid, a lot of it actually had to do with the fact that, again, the Fortnite competitive scene at this point in time, it was still nobody really know. Like, yeah, sure, we're having this summer skirmish thing kind of go on, but everybody still thinks, like, when you think about all of the other games out there, whether it be like League of Legends, Call of Duty, they're all org based. You have to be on an org to play these games. And when you're on an org, you're of course are playing with your teammates, your org mates. So signing to Team Liquid, actually, a majority of the reason why I actually signed to them was because of the people that were already on the org. And you already mentioned it. Chap, 72 Hours, and Poach. 3 of the best competitive players in the world, regarded as that, like, unanimously amongst a bunch of people. So I was like, you know what? If there's going to be a squad, level, like, format to this, that's the team that I want to be on, because we will be the best. And I can confidently tell you that Team Liquid, salary wise, was not my highest offer by any means. I signed with Team Liquid because, one, I had followed Team Liquid for a very long time in other esports. I was a big esports fan throughout all of this. By the way, I was always watching competitions, no matter what it was. Always a fan of Team Liquid, whether it be Counter Strike, whatever they were playing, and was always a big fan. And then two, I wanted to be associated with Chap, Tom, and Poach. So that
Mhm.
was the reason why I actually signed to Team Liquid. As far as deliverables go, shout out to Team Liquid because they were very, very awesome. All of the sponsors were super, super cool. Like I said, Alienware. I got to do some cool things. I got to make commercials with Honda. I got to do commercials like wearing the Marvel collab jerseys that there were. Like, there's a picture of me wearing
That's
like the Captain
crazy.
America jersey. Like, I was like the center. Like, so cool. They did so many cool things. Team Liquid, Steve. They were always so accommodating. I mean, I got birthday gifts sometimes from them. It's like they don't have to do that. I guarantee you, almost no other orgs were doing that. But super awesome along the entire way. But deliverable wise, I mean, there was no like minimum hours stream. There was no like, hey, if you don't win a tournament, you're off the team. Like, it was like, we're with you for 2 years. That was the contract. Now, of course, with that, there were bonuses, like monetary bonuses. So they
Mhm.
would pay me extra if my Twitch did certain numbers, or if my YouTube videos did certain numbers. So that was also another, like, kind of stream of revenue that that's how they kind of incentivized. They were like, "Hey, listen, you don't have to stream, but if you do and it does well, boom, we're gonna give you money." Because then, at that point, remember, I am representing Team Liquid and Team Liquid is representing me. It's this
Yeah.
two-way street. And if I'm doing well, then so is their brand. You know what I mean? If more people are seeing their brand, more people are seeing their sponsor. So that's how they incentivized me to still grind and everything like that. But I was competitive. I obviously wanted to continue to stream. So it wasn't like I needed incentive to keep doing that, but it was always there for us to kind of earn.
We were in Katowice together in Poland. We didn't actually have a conversation. We didn't know each other, but you were there
Yeah.
competing, and I was there stage hosting. It was like the first time there was like a third party huge kind of Fortnite event. They built like a tomato temple thing. It was impressive, man. Like it was very cool.
Yeah.
But while we were there, they announced the Fortnite World Cup. Okay, and I want to kind of like meet this thing kind of like before we move into kind of like FNCS and your career post kind of playing. Like when that was announced, we were in Katowice, and it was suddenly out of nowhere. I want to say it was like a $4 million prize pool. Is that right? Was it 4 mil?
40.
Four, 40
40.
million. Right,
40.
right. 40 million. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right. 40. Sorry, I've way under. I've gone 10% of the actual value. Okay, so it was $40 million. Okay, everyone was losing their minds over that. That was an like a crazy amount of money. And with the whole premise being that if you even qualified to go to New York, where they had the final, the World Cup, you won 50 grand, $50,000 just for getting there.
Yep.
Forget where you actually place 50,000 if you just get there, guaranteed. Now, Fortnite World Cup memories. What was that absolute tailspin of an experience like? Quickly, like what was it like? The whole thing must have been just like you saw Marshmallow DJing. It's when you had like the ninjas and the courages and the Doctor Lupos and the whole. I mean, it was a wild time.
Yeah, the reason why Fortnite World Cup is important is because it was without a doubt the biggest Fortnite like in-person event to actually have happened up until this point. The money that was on the line was absurd. There was like $1 million up for grabs each week. There was 10 weeks, and then of course the World Cup itself. When you actually got there, there was $30 million in total. So yeah, like I mentioned, $40 million in total on the line. And the scary part was qualifying, right? And there was a solos and a duos portion. So remember, I said there was 10 weeks of qualifying, and the weeks, there was 5 weeks of solos and 5 weeks of duos. To qualify for solos, they they based the qualification spots off of the region. So on NA East, which is the region I was playing off of, there was the top 6 each week qualified to World Cup. Now, I'll be honest with you, right before World Cup, like around that time for I would say, whatever years, I think it was like 2018, 2019, that year, since the start of like that year, and I think the first qualification week one was in like April or something like that, April or May. Prior to that, the couple months before that, I really kind of fell out of love for competing. Like I really wasn't grinding the game as hard as I should have been as a competitor, as somebody who wanted to win at that time. I had been doing it for a long time at this point, was kind of just like slipping in terms of skill and everything like that. And that kind of stuff gets to you. So, here's the biggest event of the world that's announced, super amounts of money on the line. And I wasn't really grinding, I'll be honest. Coming into the first week, hadn't really played any solo scrims, hadn't really done any like preparing, anything like that. I kind of just like jumped in and was kind of hoping for the best, I'll be honest. Now, for those of you who don't know, spoiler alert, I ended up qualifying in week number one. Now, after everything I just told you, you're probably like, well, how the heck is that possible? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Okay. I was just good at Fortnite and I could kind of get away with things like that. But the coolest thing about actually qualifying for World Cup was the way that it worked was there was a 3 hour time period. You had 10 total games. So if you used 10 games up in those 3 hours, then you were out. I had extra games available, and there was about 5 minutes, let's say 5-10 minutes left in the running for the actual competition. So what I could have done whilst I was in my last game is it was approaching end game, but in order to maximize the amount of time I was actually in a game, I could have went W keyed somebody, went down, and then jumped into another game before those 3 hours actually ran out. And that was the big thing around the time was like, okay, do I do that or do I not do that? And I remember I was in the base, I was pretty safe, and I went on Discord and I messaged my teammates. I messaged Poach, Chap, and Tom. I was like, guys, what do I do? I've got 10 minutes left. I've got like 3 games left. I can get into another one. I can leave this one and kind of get the most points possible, make the most out of my time, or do I stay and do I play this one out? And the consensus in the group chat with Team Liquid at that point was I stay in that game. And that was the best decision I have ever done in Fortnite. Staying in that game, I ended up popping off. I had highlights on the broadcast. It was like my final game. They showed it on the main stream. They showed me pretty much qualifying. I got so many eliminations, popping off in the end game. Boom, boom, boom. I think I got like third or fifth or something like that. But I placed really high. I had so many eliminations. Got so many points from that game. Boom, I bumped up. I ended up getting top 6. Like I said, that's what you needed to qualify for the World Cup. And literally the first week of qualifiers, Liquid Vivid does it. The guaranteed 50.
Huge.
If I go to World Cup and get last place, I get 100th, I'm guaranteed 50 grand. Like I had won 50 grand just from qualifying for World Cup. Crazy.
Mad, crazy, crazy. Now, I mean,
Um,
after that World Cup experience, and after the kind of like
Whew.
the absolute, it was. I mean, it was. I had such FOMO, man. I wasn't there for that, and I remember thinking, God, I wish I was, because it looked incredible. It looked like an amazing experience. After
um,
that's over, um, you said already you weren't grinding as hard. I think we talked about this, yeah, and I'm keen to hear more. You kind of went through like a burnout. I think
yeah,
you kind of went through like a hard like I've been in a dark room for a long time and I've been
yeah.
playing this game too much. What the burnout like? How what was that like? How did it happen? And when did you kind of recognize it and say, I'm done now. I'm hanging up my mouse and keyboard.
So the hard thing, and one thing important to kind of recognize is that when I've been playing video games throughout my entire life, if I stop liking a game, my entire life I just go to a different game. Like that was kind of like how I was. And video gaming to me, even though it was my job, even though I was earning money off of it, even though I could have taken more advantage of it, it's just like the reason why I was good was because I was having fun and no longer kind of like having fun. I've never really been in a position before in my life where I had to like, force myself to keep playing a video game. Like it was very weird. It was a hard kind of like mental thing. And then yeah, not to mention, I mean, my room was pretty much the only thing that I ever really saw. I mean, I had to grind Fortnite for like 16 hours a day to kind of keep up playing scrims all the
God.
time, streaming, everything like that. I have blackout curtains that still exist in my room. They do great. But yeah, pretty much like no sunlight, 16 hours, boom, you sleep for 8, you wake back up, Fortnite again. Literally on repeat. Didn't really go outside all that much. And yeah, it was just taxing after a while. Like it really does catch up to you. I just started playing different games. I mean, I was still competing, still playing Fortnite, still playing scrims here and there pretty consistently, but it was just like the main thing was I wasn't enjoying it. And I still wanted to continue to do it. I still kind of got my resurgence. I still could compete at a certain level, even though I wasn't going to win events, but I was still going to do well. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't just going to completely fall to the face of the earth because I wasn't playing as much as I was or wasn't enjoying as much as I was still good. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Now kind of like timeline wise here, after World Cup, the FNCSs start coming around. Those are like the main competitions now. And what happened was my 2-year contract with Team Liquid was running out. So renegotiations were kind of starting with them. Now I still had a brand. I still wanted to compete and I was still streaming, everything like that. But I wanted a little bit of a salary bump from Team Liquid. I don't want to continue making the same amount of money that I was making. I feel like I had deserved to make a little bit more. That's how I felt. So I had asked for more. Basically, what ended up happening was I didn't get more. I actually got offered just a little bit less, not too much less, but just a little bit less. And I was like, okay, Team Liquid, like, is it cool if I go out and seek other opportunities with different organizations? And I kind of made a free agent post on Twitter after they kind of agreed to that, and they were great, by the way. Like I said, Team Liquid has always been great. They held my offer. They were like, listen, you can go see what else is out there, and our offer is still open and available to you. So they didn't like pull it or anything like that. They were very very comforting and everything like that. So within dude, I'm not even kidding you, I made a free agent post. That night, I had like 3, 4 orgs kind of setting up meetings, and I'm not even kidding you. I think within like 24 hours of making that free agent post, I was signed to Cloud9. And the reason why I was signed to Cloud9, and by the way, this was supposed to be, and I've talked about this before. This is no secret. It's a big part of why I actually ended up retiring. But I was on a 3-year contract for Cloud9, and their offer, Cloud9's offer, was triple that of Team Liquid's. So it was a no brainer. It was a no
Wow. Of
brainer.
course. Yeah. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
and I was like done, signed it fast, boom, boom, boom. I talked to a lot of people on Cloud9. They had great vision for what they want to do with Fortnite. They signed, I mean, Chap. They signed other players as well. Like it looked like they were really, really invested into Fortnite. Um, 3 months go by of this 3-year contract, and boom, they give me the can. Like literally just like that. And for anybody
Wow.
out there that is like confused or anything like that, esports contracts for players are extremely one-sided. There are literally clauses in there that pretty much say, hey, we can cut you at any time that we want because we want to. Like that's just how the contracts are. And from what I have seen, like for example, Team Liquid and Cloud9 contract, it looks like they use the same lawyer because they looked exactly the same. They were worded the exact same way. Of course, Team Liquid, I don't think that they would have ever abused their power in terms of that, right? They did have the power to cut me whenever they wanted to, but I don't think they would have done that. Cloud9 kind of has a reputation for doing that. They're kind of a little bit more brutal, and I'm sure other orgs have done it as well, kind of abuse the wording of the contracts. But and you may be like, well, Vivid, why the heck would you sign that if it's so one sided? And it's funny because speaking to like my own lawyer, if there ever was like a legal dispute, my lawyer argued that because the contract is so one-sided, that if there was ever like a legal dispute, if I were to negotiate the contract, basically what he said was that if I negotiated one part of the contract, then that means that I was aware that I could have negotiated it and I could have negotiated for other things in the contract as well, right? So if I start negotiating in any way, shape, or form on these contracts, it may actually hurt me in a legal
Mm.
process because I mean, if there's something like a little scummy in there and I didn't negotiate for it, and we're like, well, you knew you could negotiate. Like, pretty much the plan was if there was ever a legal dispute, and there wasn't, but if there ever was one, I could just go into court and kind of plead that, like, hey, I was just some stupid young kid trying to play video games, trying to make money. I didn't negotiate for any of this. I didn't know what any of that meant. You know what I mean? That was kind of like the plan. But yeah, the
Hmm.
contracts are super one sided. 3 months out of a 3-year long contract, and boom, cut. Now, if you remember what I said earlier on, is that I refused to kind of compete if I didn't have a guaranteed source of income. And once I got cut from Cloud9, I was in a moment, I was in a point in my life where not only was I talking to a girl, kind of like trying to get a girlfriend at this point, everything like that. I was enjoying going outside again. Wasn't really enjoying competing. The time, honestly, it all really lined up very, very well. And I was like, you know what? Listen, I don't have the energy. I don't want to continue to compete. I don't want to go out looking for another org so that way I can continue to kind of do something that I'm not really having fun doing anyway. Let me go ahead and retire from competing. And that's what I did. At that very moment, I retired.
Wow. And how like long after that did FNCS come a knocking? How quickly did they ask you to be an analyst?
So timeline wise, I believe the year was 2021, January 1st, like literally the start of the new year is when Cloud9 gave me the information that I was cut. I think January 2nd or January 1st, I made a tweet longer on Twitter that said, "Hey, sorry guys, I'm done competing." I explained the whole story with Cloud9. Shout out to Team Liquid. I gave a shout out to them for it because Cloud or Team Liquid treated me way better, of course, than Cloud9 did. And
Yeah.
honestly, looking back at it now, if I truly wanted to stay true to my roots and kind of be loyal to a team, maybe I should have signed that Team Liquid contract for less money, just knowing that they were more loyal and they were a little bit more closer to family. But I mean, like I said, it was a 3x offer. I just signed it.
Yeah, mate, mate, I totally
Yeah,
get it. I mean, I totally get it. You know, in this kind of ever changing world of esports, where like at the end of the day, financially, it's
it
beneficial
made
to kind of go
sense.
with the
Yeah,
3x. So I mean, because to get into FNCS now as well, because yeah, we've got to talk about we suddenly found one another, and then it happened for me. It happened at like I guess like one a.m. UK time. Not for you though. So the context here being that FNC Fortnite suddenly did a lot more FNCS. Like Fortnite Championship Series became a big thing. You and I, you and I were on the same. I filled in Zeke as the main host of FNCS. He has
mhm,
been for a long time now, and they're from like kind of like way back, at the beginning of it all through to now, kind of part of the furniture, if you only think like with the whole series. But he was unavailable one day, and bearing in mind Zeke had to do three shows. Like there was the EU show, then the
yep.
North America East
East
show,
and
then the
then
North America
West.
West show.
Yep.
Every show is like 4 hours long. Did it back to back to back. And I guess for being based in the US, you can kind of like start early in the morning and finish like kind of like in the evening. For me, it was a 6 p.m. start for the EU because I filled in for Zeke for
Yep.
one day, and they were like, "Oh, you're gonna fill in and do all three regions." I started at 6 p.m. I finished at 6 a.m. Bro, it was one of the most killer things I've done in my entire life. I think I met you at about 1 a.m. I don't
Yeah.
remember. It was because you were doing I think with Reese, right? You were doing it like on the East.
Yeah, dude, some of those early lineups, I definitely don't remember. Like, I
But
couldn't.
I could definitely sense that you were because we didn't know each other, and
Yeah.
I could definitely sense that you were kind of very new because you were comparatively the person you are now, you were definitely a lot quieter,
Mhm.
finding your feet in terms of presentation, and there's a lot that goes into it. Um, did you kind of when the opportunity to be an analyst kind of was presented to you? Did you kind of go, yeah, I'm definitely down for this, or were you a bit like, yeah, I don't know if this is me?
So, what's interesting is, like I mentioned, I made that retirement post, but I had mentioned in that retirement post that I didn't necessarily wanna leave the Fortnite scene. Like, Fortnite, I still had a love for the game, I still had a great understanding of the game, and I wanted to do something in the scenes that was, like, analytical, like, maybe make videos, maybe team up with somebody, maybe do some coaching or something like that, and I mentioned that, I was like, "Maybe get on the Fortnite broadcast." Like, I feel like I mean, no disrespect to anybody at the time or anybody that's ever done it, but technically speaking, like I would have had the best insight to what it was actually taking for some of these players to actually pull off some of their plays. So, literally, I mentioned it happened the first of the year, and I think in like February or March was like my first show. Like Epic Games reached out pretty quickly, and I won't lie, it was crazy because you know they know that I stream, they know that I've kind of been on camera, but everybody knows that watched my streams, I was a robot. Like, I didn't make any expressions. Like, if I won a game, I was like, "Cool, I won a game." You know what I mean? Like, it was like I was stone cold serious playing whether it was a pub mat, like, I wanted to win. Remember, I was a competitive person, had no emotions, like, I expected myself to win. So really never been, like, emotion, like, heavy or, like, kind of, like, ecstatic or anything like that. And for the broadcast, it was crazy because one, I had no idea what to expect. Like, I remember we jump into rehearsals And it's like I show up and there's like no meeting beforehand. There's no like, hey, Vivid, this is kind of what we expected of you. This is kind of like what we want you to do. There was none of that. It was like I showed up to rehearsals and we ran a dry run. We made sure all the tech worked. Boom, jumped into a dry run. Okay, cool. That worked great. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the real thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we're doing the real thing tomorrow? Like, I had
Yeah.
no clue what to kind of expect. And, like you mentioned, completely different on camera than I am today, but I was terrible. Like, I was so bad
You
in the
were
sense that no,
terrible.
no, no, let's be honest, like, I was seriously bad, like, my face, I like, the way that, like, no emotion was kinda coming out of me, I was just, like I was analyzing the game, and that was it. I wasn't like, "Holy cow, he did it." I was like, "He did this because he wanted to do this." You know what I mean? Like, that's how I was. I
Yeah.
was analyzing the game,
'Cause
and,
I I
it
remember because
was
the first time we went together, I went and you said something and you were quite and you were kind of like to the point. There was not really much the chat or and you said something. I went, well, okay then. Let's move on to the next. Yeah, it was very like it was just this is what I saw. This is what happened.
Yep.
Let's move on. It was yeah. It was very
Um,
formidable. It was, but it would. I guess this is what I kind of love about this because I obviously came into that one day, and I filled in. I loved it. It was crazy exhausting, but it was an amazing experience. I love working with kind of like the wider kind of like team. I worked with a few people before, obviously across the thing on different shows. But that was a real kind of experience. And then I remember
yeah,
thinking for the next season, right, I want to come back in,
yeah.
and
You
the
did.
opportunity to host wasn't there at that point.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh, but how would you like to be an analyst?" And I was like, and I remember saying to like my closest and my management at the time, I said, "Guys, I'm kind of scared about this because
Yeah.
this is it's one thing being a host and asking questions. It's another thing breaking down the meta of gameplay
Yeah.
strategy." And next to you as well, because the offer was to kind of come in to be an analyst together.
Yep.
Dude, I crapped myself. I was every week. I felt like I had knots in my stomach because I thought, don't say something stupid. Don't and I was preparing notes. You would just go bang, 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 bang. Yeah, I had to prepare hard. Um, but that was the beauty of it, man, because you and I were the perfect pairing.
Yeah. So I actually listen, yeah, I mean, I think I've told you this before, but I actually credit a lot of like me getting better on camera to mind you. So Zeke is back as the host. So it's
Mhm.
Zeke, then it's me in the middle, and then it was you kind of like on the end, right? Like the flow
Yeah.
of the show was Zeke and then me and then Adam. If nobody has seen like a Fortnite broadcast before or like kind of like under Zeke is crazy. Lots of energy,
Mhm.
awesome, loves to make jokes. And then there was me, by the way. Like I said, at this time, I'm being very, very serious, kind of just like breaking down things very, very dully. And then Adam as well, another like host, used to being very, very ecstatic, very, very energetic. So it was like Zeke with the energy, and then it was like, okay, here's Vivid talking about the game, very, very serious. And then it came back to Adam, and it was like, yeah, Vivid, you know what I mean? Like it was like the
Oh
flow was
man.
so great. So I was sandwiched in between two people that were speaking like three times my volume, and I seriously credit a lot of like how good I am on camera or being comfortable or being able to increase how ecstatic I am to being in between you guys because it was like I could tell the flow was just terrible. Like I was forced to sound just a little bit more ecstatic because else it was just like this hard drop to me and then this rise back up to you. Like it was so funny.
Oh man,
It was
but you know what? It was amazing because this is as well. This is a time as well where we're at the back end of COVID there, and I'm living in a different. I'm living in London where I have to actively. I have a small apartment with young kids. I have to actively rent a room in a Marriott across the street where they have like VidCon. So I know the internet's solid. I have to rent a room and go and host FNTS from a hotel, like across. Like it was. But do you know what? What was amazing about it is I learned so much from you because I guess for anybody who kind of watches like a traditional broadcast too, like you see kind of like three people usually kind of talking about things like a virtual broadcast. We went at that point, we then go into the game and you and I, as the analyst, had to find stuff to cut and edit and put together for a package
this
so
part's
that
so good.
after the game finishes, it comes back to us on the desk and we can basically segue into, oh, we want to highlight this thing that happened that we saw in the early game, which was really kind of like definitely worth noting. It was a real kind of smart play. And I'm literally going, it goes to the game, the casters who are doing the action. I say to Vivid, mate, what are the buttons? What are the buttons? How do I use the control? Where's the camera? How do I log? What's the login details? I am so bad. And Vivid's just like, I got you, man. I got
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
You saved my life, dude.
Yeah, literally. So, like Adam was saying, we were in charge of building these packages, and we had to go into replay mode. And for the first couple weeks, Adam, I mean, hey, listen, shout out to you. Like, you're like asking me the questions, and I was just like, dude, like I got you. Man. Like, I appreciate you trying to like learn, but it's like, dude, I can go in, and the time that I would spend trying to like teach you replay mode, it just wouldn't even do it. Like, I can go in the replay mode and find something within like 3 minutes. I could spend 3 hours trying to teach you how to work replay
I'm
mode.
like,
I was like, dude, I got it, man. Like, I
dude,
understand. You know what I
I'm in
mean?
the clouds, man. I'm in the sky. Dude, I'm stuck in a bunker. How would I use you were just like, bro, I can't do this anymore. Oh, it was
And
so funny.
it was perfect because, like I said, I could find packages. I could find something to talk about very, very easily. Again, I was there because I understood the game. I could see things before they even happened, so I knew where to go on the map. I knew exactly what to do. I knew how to chop it up. It was very, very quick. And then afterwards, the kind of flow was like, okay, Adam, this is kind of what I prepared. This is what I'm going to talk about. And then, if you ever needed to know something, you just asked me. You know what I mean? And then boom,
Yeah.
that's kind of like how the flow be kind of, kind
Well, I
of,
mean,
kind of went.
and the thing is, and I saw that, and I think as you know, again, working in gaming is a lot of people kind of want to get into kind of like the kind of into the broadcast aspect of of esports games and that kind of thing as well. Like obviously saw from me and my perspective, I saw how you are liquid vivid or liquid not vivid. You are like one of the a legend in the scene, right? So you know what's up. You know you've got the kind of, and your insight is invaluable because everyone knows exactly, like, you've done it, you've been there, you got the t-shirt, and the $50,000 plus. But at the
Mm,
same time, like for me, I'm like, okay, if it's got the kind of the gameplay aspect, okay, I'm going to focus on the storylines, the narratives. I'm gonna really do my homework on the Middle Eastern regions, on the OCE regions. I'm gonna focus on the Brazilian region, stuff that I know that I can really kind of add something, which might not necessarily be just kind of like gameplay like focused, as well as adding bits and pieces as well around like victory at the end game and that kind of stuff. But dude, we had this kind of, we found our feet together,
phew.
and it mate, we were flying, dude. Like
Yeah.
it was, and we got to a point where I genuinely relished every show because it was just so good. We had this flow which was perfect. Um, and I loved it, and it was great, and it all culminated when, after all this time apart, a year working separately, finally the talent from EU, NAE, NA West, they said to us, "Hey, we're going to get you onto a studio in Denmark. We're going to
Yeah.
get you into Copenhagen together, all of you, the Fantastic 15. We're going to get you all in." And bro, we met for the first time, and it was just like, my boy, my
It
brother,
it
we
was
did it.
it was so cool. Like, listen, and I think, shout out to Adam because that's a big part of the casting space, and it can be very, very hard because I remember me and you had a conversation at one point where it was kinda like you felt like if you didn't say something that was analytical on my level,
Mm,
then you felt like you were just, like, dumb, and that's how
yeah,
you would have
yeah, yeah.
been portrayed on the broadcast,
Imposter
but
syndrome,
yeah,
massively.
exactly. Yeah, so, like, the first couple weeks, that's kinda what you're doing. You're just kinda like, "Well, how the heck do I, like, say something on the same level that he's doing?" And then, like, it's not easy to, because again, we don't have meetings where it's just like we don't really get feedback. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's like typical because I've just been in Fortnite space, but we don't really get feedback. So nobody's probably telling you like, "Hey, Adam, like you sound a little silly right now," or maybe try this. Like you yourself had to be like, "Okay, this isn't working. Let me
Yeah,
find something else." And like, dude,
yeah.
I cannot express how hard that is to actually like one realize and then execute onto a level. So like, dude, shout out to you, and like you said, shout out to us because
Thanks,
we had the
baby.
flow, man. Like we really,
Dude,
really found it, and
it was
it
fun.
was
We had
awesome.
such a
Like,
good team because we had a great team. There was Zeke, you, and myself. We had Sundown and and Monster D Face and the
yeah.
kind of the casting, and the five of us would just, we had such a good team. Um, I mean, let's not forget as well, during that period of time, you and I we were kind of formulating like a relationship as kind of like as analysts. Do you remember the meetings we used to have like once a month, like the kind of like the getting to know you, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Epic Games
yeah,
meetings
oh my
where
god, with
with
Julia,
Julia.
right?
Yeah, we used to have these. We used to have these things where they were like, "Okay, we want you guys to kind of like form this kind of like chemistry. We're going to have you like an hour together, like a meeting where ultimately we had to kind of like play games and get to know each other." It was,
Yeah.
man, it,
Dude, it
and
was
we were just in. We had so much fun,
we
dude.
had
It
a
was
little too
great.
much fun, like, Yeah, that was awesome. One of my favorite ones where we had to, like, talk about a topic, right? And then we had to, like, continue talking about it or something, like, there was, like, a you had to work with the other person in some way, shape, or form. Dude, it was it was probably more fun than it should have been, like, we had too much fun, but
Oh, we did. I mean,
and
and that's been the great thing is I think I've seen you as well. Like, you've been very complimentary, but dude, like the growth you've had, you've gone from a player who is,
100%.
as you mentioned, in your bedroom grinding 16 hours a day, to becoming like this star, as far as I'm concerned. And the confidence, like. And bearing in mind when we're on stage doing like kind of FNCS, if it's on like if we're in the studio, no cards, no desk, no monitors,
Mhm.
nothing to rely on. Just being in position, going to where you need to, following kind of like, everything's been like kind of like, blocked out where we're going to. My man Vivid here, like he is like we used to call that segment on the FNCS, the Vivid Masterclass, right? I used to
Yeah.
queue you up and be like, Vivid, I think we need one of your masterclasses. And it was perfect. It was great. If you were there, you know.
Yeah.
But mate, masterclass. Watching you at that stage, there's definitely a sense of like I'm kind of being gushy here, but there's definitely a massive like sense of pride, like a brother, like kind of like watching you kind of like flourish now. I'm just like, and you've learned all these skills, and that's the great thing is like kind of like talk about gaming. You've gone through that pro avenue, and suddenly here you are at the forefront of analytical like wonder that you are. It's dude, that means it's such a journey, and it's only happened in like a 4 year period. So really short. It's a small window.
I think this is like my 3rd year being on the broadcast right now, so it's crazy, and, another thing that a lot of people don't really, like, recognize is that for the first couple of broadcasts, I was doing it from home. I was doing it from the chair that I'm sitting in right now, and that's, like whilst that wasn't necessarily the most comfortable thing in the world because I was on broadcast again, I was terrible, and then it's like, okay, like, I'm kind of, like, learning how to, like, kinda do it, and then it's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, we're going to the studio," and then it's like, "Okay, now I have to do it on a studio. I've never done that before. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like,
mate,
I don't have my 2 computer screens in front of me. You know what I mean? There's my whole legs are showing. Like, you have to walk. You have to your arms are then showing as well. You have to know what to do with your arms and everything like that. And let me tell you something. There was a lot to learn, and I seriously wouldn't have like. I obviously I credit a lot to Adam and Zeke honestly because you guys were there from the start, kind of who I can kind of like rely on, like you said, as like a brother to be like, yo, listen, like what am I supposed to do here? You know what I mean? You guys have kind of been here before. What like, you know what I mean? What am I supposed to do?
yeah, but
But yeah,
mate,
definitely you guys helped me out learn a lot for sure.
you
And
crushed it. I
yeah.
remember one last thing before I let you go because we've had this is and I've loved this by the way. There was that moment we were in Copenhagen together and we're in the kind of like dressing room because this is again a show where there's wardrobe, there's costume,
Yeah.
there's kind of what's the word I'm looking for like fashion, like there's stylists.
Silas, yeah, yeah.
And you and I are in the same kind of like area getting kind of like changed and whatnot. I think we turned to each other, both went, doesn't get better than this. It doesn't get better than this. Like
No,
we're
it
just
really didn't.
this is the best it's ever going to be. Like this is amazing because it was just we had this team and there was a camaraderie and it was just and that's one of the defining things you mentioned about your kind of the relationship with like the Team Liquid guys as well and the communities over time and so much of it gaming as well. Like it is about the people that you work with, the people that you kind of like are playing with together as well. It makes a massive difference to things. Um, and
Yeah.
I mean, you've got on to crush it, man. You got FNCS around the corner again
Yeah.
and it's amazing to see, man. Like, yeah, I've loved getting a chance to chat to you, mate.
No, yeah, it's been great, and yeah, I'll just say one last thing. I think the camaraderie is definitely. I think it's, yeah. I haven't worked a lot of different shows and different esports and everything like that. I've heard like some stories about sometimes it's like bad. There's like some heads that are clashing. I can confidently say within like the Fortnite space that everybody that works together seriously works together. We're like seriously friends outside of the show.
Hmm.
We love to hang out, and that's been such a huge contributing factor. Like to how I don't want to say like how easy it is to do your job, but it's like you're not even really working. You know what I mean? You're just going out there having fun. We all love Fortnite. We all love to watch these pop off moments, and it's just like we're just doing it with our friends. We're just doing it with our buddies. That's kind of been the sentiment the entire time I've been on the broadcast, and that is something I definitely have not taken for granted. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a rare thing, isn't it? It's something that we I think we all kind of cherish it and massively appreciate. And Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode of the show. Vivid, again, thank you so much for coming on. And where can everyone find you online? Where is your kind of your profile at?
Listen, I don't really do money social things anymore. I like to be just like an analyst on the Fortnite competitive channel. So if you want to see some of my analytical stuff, how good I am on camera now, how bad I am on camera now, maybe you can judge me or something along those lines. Like Adam said, I'll be there for FNCS during the NA Central portion. So yeah, I'll be an analyst there. But Twitter at VividFN.
And thank you for hopping on comms with us. For you guys, you had it right there. Check out Vivid. He is a regular, if not the shining star, by the way, of the Fortnite competitive scene. Check it out. And make sure to follow us on all different social platforms. Thanks for being here for Hop on Comms. And we'll see you again for another episode very, very soon. Till then, take care. Lots of love. We'll see you.